Good morning and welcome to our latest edition of Coffee with Your Congresswoman. So today we want to talk about youth mentoring programs in our region. This year I've had the honor of heading up the Youth Mentoring Caucus in Congress, and it's a bipartisan group of members of Congress who are dedicated to building support for the youth mentoring movement on Capitol Hill. But of course, this is something that we've seen a lot of great programs right here in Philadelphia and the Delaware Valley. So mentors play a significant role in helping young people attend school regularly, find meaningful participation in extracurricular activities, graduate from high school, prepare for post-secondary goals and employment. A 2013 study showed that the strongest benefit from mentoring and the most consistent across risk groups was reducing depressive symptoms. And this finding is particularly noteworthy as almost 1 in 4 youth have reported worrisome levels of these symptoms at baseline. So our plan in Congress is to be very active within the limits of Zooming and the COVID pandemic. But we have had briefings for members of Congress and their staffers, and we're trying to push through some legislation to close the mentoring gap for the 1 in 3 young people growing up without a mentor support. So I'm really excited to talk to our guests today about the work they've done for the young people in our community and how their programs connect kids and mentors, both in the past and now during the pandemic and in some new ways. So the different aspects of child well-being that these mentoring programs focus on include physical activity, nutrition education, career and educational development, and coping resources for trauma and mental health struggles. Before COVID-19, we knew that about 9 million young people lacked meaningful connections with adults outside their homes. And obviously, the past year has been very challenging for everyone, but particularly challenging for kids and young people. And they've had some real setbacks in terms of academic learning loss, mental health struggles, and lack of job opportunities. So as we assess the effect that the past year has had on our kids and look towards solutions to address their struggles, I think the role of mentors and mentoring programs needs to be part of the conversation. We know that mentoring improves outcomes for young people across the board, and it can be a powerful tool in helping connect our kids and helping them move forward. So our guests this morning include Beth Devon, the Executive Director for Philadelphia Youth Sports Collaborative, Janine Fallon-Ankaitis, the Executive Director for Chester Youth Soccer, Virginia Sando, the Program Director for Constitution's Highest Mentoring Program and the Chief Diversity Officer at Ballard Spahr, my former law firm, and Jamar Daniels, the Program Director for Amici Chester, PA. So Beth, can you tell us about the Philadelphia Youth Sports Collaborative and the mentoring programs that you're involved in?
Sure. So the collaborative is a group of 57 nonprofit organizations in Philadelphia that serve more than 62,000 kids in the area of sports-based youth development. So, traditional youth sports are presented in a programmatic fashion, but with this added layer of kind of wraparound services to support the youth in their positive youth development process. So sports is really just the hook to get the kids in the door. And then, we throw our arms around them in a lot of different ways to support them, whether it be educational, nutritional, or mentoring, which is part of all of it. And so when you look at what sports-based youth development really is, it centers around a few things. And one of them is trained coach mentors. Because what we know is that when you're mentoring children or, when you're working with anybody, the most important piece of that is relationships. Now, sports is kind of specifically set up or uniquely set up to support a lot of things, but the relationship between a child and their coach and a relationship between a child and their teammates or fellow athletes is really powerful. And it's been shown to be really powerful. So we kind of lean all the way into that and make sure that our coaches and mentors are trained to understand how the relationship they build with their kids can have long-term positive effects, both physically and mentally. And also, play a big role in healing trauma and supporting social emotional learning growth. It's all there. And so we as an intermediary organization, our role is to make sure that our 57 member organizations have access to the appropriate training and capacity building services so they can go out and do what they do in a way that really truly impacts a child's youth development process.
That's wonderful. And my family's had a long time history with a lot of these organizations. My husband's been involved with Students Run Philly Style. My daughter was involved as a coach with the Starfinder soccer process and all. And it's not about producing the next Olympic athlete, is it? It's more about the kids' development.
It really is. And what's interesting is, of course, if you have an athlete that comes along that excels, I think right away of Monet Davis with the Anderson Monarchs. What our organizations do is, you got to kind of take your ego out of the mix and find an opportunity for that child that they might not have at school or they might not have in their neighborhood because they don't have that next kind of higher level opportunity. And so a lot of our organizations, while they focus on youth development, athletes come along and you want to make sure that you can support that process as well. So we see a lot of that. And, the best thing you can have is a really well-rounded athlete come out of these programs and excel and find a pathway for themselves. And I think we see that in a lot of the organizations that work with, 8th graders and up, where kids really come into their own athletically, but they've been supported on the youth development side all the way through the program.
Well, and one of the things that's so great about our area is that there's such a rich array of things different sports activities to bring kids into the fold, everything from fencing to squash to running to soccer. Let's turn now to Janine Ankaitis, and she's with the Chester Youth Soccer Organization. Can you talk to us a little bit about what your group is doing, Janine?
Yeah, thanks so much for giving us this opportunity. Chester Upland Youth Soccer has been around since 2012. We were founded by the men's soccer coach at Widener University. Research shows that the after-school hours are the highest risk period of time for juveniles to either be the perpetrators or the victims of crime. So obviously giving these kids something really great to do in the afternoon under the supervision of trained coach mentors, as Beth was saying, is a number one priority. And so our group was founded with that mindset of giving kids somewhere great to be and something great to do after school with those mentorship relationships developing. So we actually operate in 7 schools under normal conditions, and we hired a site director in each of those schools. So generally speaking, the programming works like this. The children are excused from their homeroom classes, and then they go to the site director, and the site director gives them a snack and takes attendance and all those great things. And then we generally have our coach mentors are largely members of the Widener University population, and they work with the kids in person 3 days a week. And then we have soccer Saturdays, which I'm very glad to say is actually really happening this spring live in person. Obviously, with the pandemic, we have moved our after school training online. And one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that enriches our volunteer base. By Zoom, anybody can be a volunteer, and we've still put them through the training that we need them to go through, and obviously the background checks. But we've had many more volunteers step up and do something productive. So we've been thrilled with the relationships that have been able to develop even over Zoom. And like I said, the Soccer Saturdays have been live the past 3 weeks. We've had between 25 and 35 kids come out every time. Everyone's in masks. The volunteers have been tremendous. And you can just see the joy on the children's faces. We tend to work with K-8. And we are part of the Soccer for Success network. There's 190 programs like ours in underserved communities around the country that are supported by the U.S. Soccer Foundation. And we're all executing this program that is not only soccer training, but also nutrition education and smart decision making. So we're really proud of what we've been able to do in general in the community. This year, I've really tried to provide additional programming. So over winter break, President's Day, and spring break, we had art, STEM, cooking, and book club activities for the kids, and just trying to engage them. They all have devices from the school districts. So we've been able to try to give them worthwhile activities and inspire them to come up with their own worthwhile activities. And we've also provided groceries, books, athletic apparel they can wear at home, soccer balls and ball pumps. We've just tried to really give them, a lot of things to do and think about that are positive during this difficult time. So it's actually been a gift for all of our volunteers to experience the joy of helping those kids. And we can see with the parents and the kids how much they appreciate it.
So clearly not just about the sport, but a whole child package going on.
I really like to think about it as, positive decision making, healthy lifestyle choices. And sports are important for all of us. We all need to be active, whether your sport is walking around your neighborhood like it is for me, or if you're on an adult sport, in an adult sport program. We all need to continue to have activity throughout our entire lives. And what we're teaching is that you build that athletic time, that active time into your day as often as you can. We've used participation prizes to encourage the kids to get in on their Zooms, and all of our participation prizes have been active toys that they can use at home. We've given out ping pong sets that they can use on a dining room table. We've given out, juggling balls and rules for how to learn how to juggle. We've tried to do all sorts of things that will get them off the couch, away from their electronic devices and moving, and hopefully engaging their parents and their other family members in those activities, because we all have had too much screen time this year. And anything we can do to get everybody moving and having fun together and feeling positive is great.
Great. Well, let's switch gears a little bit, because so far we've talked about mentoring programs based on sport. But our next guest, Virginia Sando, is with a law firm that works with students in the Philadelphia school district at Constitution High, which has a focus on civics and the law. And that's a different kind of mentoring program. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Virginia?
Sure, Mary Gay, and thank you for Congresswoman Scanlon. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this conversation. So at Ballard Spar, 15 years ago, we entered into what we like to think was a groundbreaking pipeline partnership. We partnered with the Philadelphia School District, the National Constitution Center, and the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History to sponsor a high school near our office called Constitution High School. The student body there is 95% students of color. And as the Congresswoman mentioned, it's focused on civics and history and law and democracy. So our program involves our lawyers and staff mentoring students at the high school with the objective of seeking more diversity in the legal profession, more diversity in law firms, more diversity of students considering some sort of career in law. And to us, we believe that if we expose these students to the law, to lawyers, to staff that work in the legal profession, to paralegals, to administrative assistants, that we can start to spark that interest in this important profession. And so we have decided to invest our efforts into this one school. So our involvement is multifaceted. We engage in job shadowing with the students. So I used to be able to say every ninth grader has passed through the halls of Ballard Spar, but this pandemic has put a damper on our track record here. But we bring every ninth grader in to learn about different careers in the legal profession. They get to meet lawyers, they get to hear about different practice areas. They get to engage in negotiation skills. We teach them practical skills like negotiation and contract drafting. And we allow them to explore different jobs in the legal field. The other aspect is our mentoring program, and that's our formal program by which we match a group of students with lawyers in our firm, lawyers and staff. We also partner with some of our clients as well to mentor a student. And it takes place over the course of a school year. And what we've done over the last few years is we've developed an action plan with each student to understand what their needs were and what their needs are. We identify whether they're still trying to figure out college, still trying to figure out a career, trying to work on a paper for the school. Just depending on what their needs are in the moment, we build a curriculum around that person. And the mentors put together a curriculum for the year that will help them achieve their goals. Our mentoring program has been phenomenal. It has been an opportunity for us to get to meet students on a whole new level, for them to get to know our lawyers and our staff on a personal level. We also engage in summer internships. So we provide a summer internship opportunity for students at the high school throughout the summer. We give 2 scholarships away every year to high school, to graduating seniors at the school. We also, in previous years, coached the school's mock trial teams. We have an advisory board. The school has an advisory board in which Ballard lawyers are a part of, and we engage with the students on service projects throughout the year. Again, our greatest accomplishment would be to see these students go on to law school. And in fact, we are proud to say that we have some of our mentoring program students who are in law school right now. And so I think that is our greatest achievement to date. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And for many years, I participated in both the mentoring program and the mock trial program, which was just so fabulous to see students come in and learn how to present themselves in public speaking, and particularly seeing students who would come in and be quite hesitant and shy, and seeing them, call it cross-examining someone to death within a couple months, and really starting to feel that they could present themselves to the world in a way that they hadn't before. So one of the things I like to talk about is the fact that mentoring really gives, at least as much back to the mentor as you see the development with kids as it does for the students participating. Tamar, can you tell us a little bit about the Chester Amici program? It's a relatively new program, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. I will call it a grassroots program. We came in and we started planning at the infancy stages in City Hall, and we were able to acquire a PCCD grant, and it was really the response to violence being identified as a public health issue in the city of Chester. We definitely leveraged the PAYS data. I heard you mention the depressive symptoms and some other risk factors that were in play. And we wanted to create a program that could kind of like mitigate the violence in the city of Chester. So one thing that we do is we understand it as a grassroots. The intention was to bring an evidence-based model to the city of Chester, period. Something that you could drop there, something that could be duplicatable amongst multiple community organizations. Our main value proposition is providing children, at-risk youth impacted by gun violence or incarceration is a reentry effort. It's birthed out of the reentry department in City Hall, out of the community liaisons department. The goal was to provide at-risk youth 1 hour a week for the period of 1 year. So our main value proposition is connecting people to children to kind of like cross-pollinate in the city. And I say cross-pollinate because in the city of Chester, we have a dynamic going on with the east side and the west side, or the north side and the south side. And our goal is to develop community partners in every section of the city, and then allow a huge collaboration. Our model is definitely a community model. It's out of school time and it's weekends. Is stuff for children to participate in out of school time. We collaborate with the police department, with the Boys and Girls Club. We got a tennis tournament that we throw in the spring, the fall, and the summer. I said that out of order. But it has components of mentorship and sportsmanship. We also collaborate with churches. Cornerstone Ministries, where they provide 37 mentors. Another church might provide 37 mentees. And what happened, we would match those two, and then we would appropriate fundings to kind of like sustain those relationships. So, our main thing is just to make sure that children in the city of Chester are being offered robust options from the police department around trauma, around behavior health, around community involvement, around churches, around, even other synagogues, meeting houses, just pulling everybody together for the best interest of a child. Our criterion says impacted by gun violence and incarceration or antisocial behavior. But when you run those things, what you find is that everyone is impacted by those things in the city of Chester. So we equal opportunity. We embrace every child from ages 7 to 14, and we will go younger and we will go older if the need presents itself. But we want to mentor. We want to connect them with a caring adult that's willing to give them some non-judgmental love. Again, for 1 hour a week, 2 hours bi-weekly for the period of 1 year. Amachi is a Igbo, Nigerian word, Igbo and dialect, which means who knows but what God has brought us to this child. People of faith mentoring children of promise. And that's so unique to be hubbed in City Hall with that kind of thing. But it doesn't discriminate against any faith. We just want good people to come in and make some quality and have some quality interaction with some good children.
Well, I think what's really remarkable is we've heard about some very different programs here. Sports-based, community-based, some church involvement, business and school involvement. There's certainly so many opportunities for folks to get involved. And of course, this is just a small sampling of the programs available. Certainly people have often heard of Boys and Girls clubs or Big Brother, Big Sister, all kinds of different opportunities. Now, one of the things we've obviously seen in the last year is the difficulty of running any program, but particularly mentoring programs during a pandemic when you have to be aware of social distancing, et cetera. Beth, do you want to talk a little bit about how the groups that you work with have dealt with this?
Yeah, I think what was important is nobody stopped reaching out to their kids. And it's, one would think that sports would be the hardest way. You can't do it virtually, not real well. You can teach some skills and stuff, but if someone's standing in a living room, it becomes challenging. But I think what was important, and Janine touched on this, is, we saw all of our organizations just shift into crisis mode and support their families outside of sport. And that's that relationship building that happens in these types of programs where, it just proves it's more than the sport. It's making sure that the kids and their families have food or have access to what, services that they need to get through this time. And so, when you think about the activity to get people interested, but the relationship building and mentoring is what's really, that's the heart of what all of us do, I believe. And so I think as we come out of the pandemic, one thing we want to make sure is that our mentors are prepared to really deal with the challenges. Like, kids have been traumatized. I said, even if you're in the most supportive home in the world, this was still really hard. And so when you work with families or youth that are negatively impacted by poverty or in dangerous neighborhoods, these kids are going to come out and go back to school, and it's not going to be like, we're not going back to normal. So I guess I am a huge proponent for any of the services around educating and supporting the mentors themselves. And, we work with Mentoring Independence Region. They do the training for all Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They have great workshops on how to be a good mentor. So, I think it's going to be crucial. It's going to be more critical than ever for our mentors. Kids get back in front of them to really understand what could be going on in that child and how they have been impacted by this past year. So we hope that people take advantage of learning opportunities and then are supported themselves. Like, the mentors need support too. We all went through this pandemic. So, this is going to be a really interesting kind of next 12 to 18 months in the area of mentoring and how we support the supporters, if you will.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. I know the Chester soccer program, I think, as Janine mentioned, has been engaged in a whole lot of supportive activities. In fact, I met her and her group out in front of a high school where there was a food distribution going on. Obviously, food insecurity has been one of the big issues during the pandemic, with so many people out of work and the economic disruption going on. So we saw people working with food distribution programs, but you were also providing activities for the kids with backpacks full of soccer balls and things. Can you tell us a little bit about that effort?
Yeah, actually, that was last July, if you can believe it, almost a year ago already. we anticipated having a spring season, as we always do. And when we realized we weren't going to be able to do that, we started to think about how we can support the kids through the spring and summer, knowing that they missed out on their soccer season. And it was actually a conversation that I had with a representative of Beth's organization, who told me that they were developing the funds to put together sports packs to give out to every kid in Philadelphia. And I believe, Beth, your program included giving out a basketball and a soccer ball and a whole lot of equipment. We didn't have that kind of budget, but we put together backpacks, working with Corey Long's Making a Change organization. And each backpack included a jump rope, a tennis ball, and most of those tennis balls were donated by Bryn Mawr College, Swarthmore College, and members of the community. We did a tennis ball drive. For me as a kid, a tennis ball was the greatest thing I could ever play with. So I wanted to make sure everybody got one, and they don't have to be new to be fun. We gave out flying airplanes that, the kid shoots it across the room. Guess what? They got to get up off the couch and go get it. So even if they didn't have a lot of outdoor space, we gave out a number of toys, obviously a ball they could use that was safe to use indoors and so on. But we were able to get funding for these backpacks from the Foundation for Delaware County and the Communities Foundation. And at a very reasonable cost and with not a tremendous amount of work, we put together 1,000 backpacks. And we were grateful to have Congresswoman Scanlon out with us at the high school, giving it out at one of the food distributions. We gave out 1,000 backpacks. Over 700 on that distribution event, everybody in masks at a safe, distance where they also could pick up their food. And then any that we had left over at the end of that distribution, we gave out to food pantries and pediatricians' offices around the city of Chester. And so I would like to think that 1,000 kids got toys that they could play with all summer long. And each backpack also included a card that we printed up. On one side, there were all sorts of creative things that someone could do to enhance their soccer skills with the contents of that. You can practice your heading with a tennis ball. You can practice, a long shot by just kicking a ball onto your bed. All these things that were a little bit more creative than what, we wanted to inspire the kids to think of their own activities by giving them some creative things to start with. And then the other side of the card was just fun games that they could play with their family members with that. Again, trying to invoke creative thinking, trying to, give kids a reading opportunity, practice their reading skills while they're thinking about fun ways to use these new toys. And we were so grateful for the support. It all came together very quickly, but I love the collaboration, and I'd be remiss if Jamar and I didn't have the chance to mention that the two of us have created Chester's Mentoring Initiative, which is up to 140 members, organizations and individuals around the city of Chester who are doing good work for kids. And we are in a continuous monthly meeting, series of discussions on topics like literacy and on topics like domestic abuse prevention, and just really engaging all of the mentors that are serving Chester in, as Jamar likes to say, sharing superpowers and talking about what are our challenges, what are our opportunities to do good work. And with the summer coming, our next meeting is actually to talk about what can we do this summer individually and collectively to make sure that our kids are gainfully occupied and moving forward on their educational path and their healthy development path, because this has been a hard time. And we collaborate with the school district and the charter schools in order to try to support everyone's efforts. So anyone who wants to volunteer with any of the organizations that are serving Chester should just reach out and get involved with Chester's Mentoring Initiative. There's 1,000 pathways to get involved, and we welcome everyone and anyone.
That's great. Now, I know Virginia, with the Constitution High Mentoring Project and with the Ballard's office being remote and school being remote for much of the year, it was not a normal year for doing the kinds of mentoring activities and career development activities that your program's done in the past. But even before the pandemic, there was a virtual component to some of the mentoring. I'm thinking of the prompts and the writing prompts through emails that some of the mentors were using. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We were fortunate enough to have software that allowed us to engage with the students in a safe way, in which I, as the administrator of the program, could monitor the communication safely. So our IT department created this software that allowed us to do that. And the students were given assignments and they would respond to the assignments, and the mentors could then collaborate with them on responding to the assignments. That was very helpful for us because, as you know, our lawyers have limited time, and they were able to kind of engage virtually. And then their time together was a lot more productive when we were together. The one thing I'll mention before we close is that we were still able to give away our scholarships last year, even though we didn't have our full program. And we plan to do the same thing this year, to give away 2 scholarships to high school students that are graduating.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I've taken some of those lessons from the mentoring with the students who were interested in civics and such. And with the help of Nyla from our office here and Heather Boyd, who's our district director, we started a congressional youth cabinet. So we have high school juniors and seniors who apply to be part of the youth cabinet from across the district. And this year we had about 75 students involved. So we meet every 4 to 6 weeks, pre-pandemic in person and now virtually. But it's young people who are really, really interested in government and policy. So early on, when we meet first in the year, they talk about the issues they're interested in, and then we try to bring in people who are experts in those issues to talk about what's going on, and then of course to keep them up to date on what's going on in DC. But we've got a group chat and such. They give me advice on what to do, or ask really, really interesting questions about why certain things are happening. So I've really enjoyed that opportunity. Jamar, can you talk a little bit about how you've had to adapt with your group during the pandemic?
Yes, and I just want to say Jax is in a space. That's my 4-year-old, but I think everything will be okay. Well, we had to definitely rely on partnerships. It was an opportunity to go out. Amachi is a part of the Chester Police Chaplains, where we do facilitations to train Chester Police Chaplains. And what that provides is a unique opportunity for people to actually show up to spaces where there is trauma and to provide not an immediate option, but as they stay in contact with the families, a secondary option that might that help the family with the healing if there's some incarceration or gun violence involved. Another thing is we host a 13-week grief share. We're on our second rotation, where people who are experiencing loss in our community, they get to come out and they get to talk about their different grief loss, and we get to reach out to the families and provide mentors for the children if and when they are impacted by any kind of gun violence. We definitely partner with our local fraternities and churches, and the police department to do the Halloween thing, and we give out the Halloween candy. We show up in that space. We were able to partner with Omega Psi Phi and CGIS Ministry to do give away 100 turkeys with our partnership with Aetna, and we were able to. It's a myriad of things that we do, but we just make sure that we partner, and we use this and we lean into the discomfort, and we provide an opportunity to do a hybrid option, because it's probably not as engaging, but it is an opportunity for us to have a virtual option, which would be via Zoom or Google Meets or House Party, but also provide resources in different ways, because they still need coats and book bags and turkeys. We definitely started that. Me and Janine started the Chester Mentoring Initiative. That was beautiful in collaboration with Dr. Burks. At Drug Free Communities, Chester Education Foundation has this Communities That Care process. It's really showing up in those spaces and providing an alternative to the in-person, and really coming together to say, we have all these resources. How can we make it reach the children? So that's some of the activities that we do. And I know some of them are escaping me, but it's a real community effort.
Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I mean, what I take away from this is that there are so many opportunities, and it can be via work, it can be via school, it can be via sports, it can be via church. Just so many opportunities to interact with and help young people develop into their best selves. And I want to thank everyone here, Beth Devon, I'm sorry, From the Philadelphia Youth Sports Collaborative, Janine Fallon-Ankaitis, the Executive Director for Chester Youth Soccer, Virginia Sando from Ballard Spar and the Constitution High Mentoring Program, and Jamar Daniels from Amici Chester, PA. Thank you all so much for the work that you're doing with youth in our community and for sharing your experience today. If folks are interested in any of these programs or other programs, they can contact my office through our website, which is scanlon.house.gov, or by calling 610-626-2020. Thank you all and have a great day.